Hello everybody. Welcome to Fog Life number 6. And tonight we have a very special guest. We have Jennifer Berger Coleman is here. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
And
Hi, guys.
helping me out this evening, I have Yeti's uncle and Fresh03. Thank you guys for coming.
Absolutely.
Life, I will have to tell you that Life is gone this week because he is at Irish Fest. So he is drinking Guinness and he won't be with us this evening, but hopefully we'll have a good show, and hopefully he drinks responsibly and I don't know, doesn't fall down the well or anything.
Well, I was going to say, Gizzard Stew, do you know LIFA? Do you know LIFA vapes?
I know,
what does one do at Irish Fest, I wonder?
Well, knowing him, he'll probably tip over, but
Eat potatoes and drink it and drink his body weight in Jameson.
Potatoes. Yep. Or do they have potato peeling contest?
Boiled potatoes.
That could be an exciting thing.
It is Irish in Iowa though, so maybe they have I don't know, maybe they have corn as well.
Oh, shepherd's pie. They gotta have shepherd's pie.
Corn and potatoes.
Corn, potatoes, some beans. Throw that down on a layer of potato.
All right.
Cook some meat up. Throw that on top. Gizzard Stew.
Anything's possible.
Melt a little cheese. I know how to make a really good shepherd's pie, Gizzard Stew.
Do you?
Yeah.
You can come over and make me some.
You can come over and make me some of your green chili.
Okay. It's a deal.
You guys are making me hungry.
All right.
Oh,
let's stop
Yeti's
food
phone,
right now.
Yeti's phone is active.
That was the Fog Life notification.
Yeti's phone. Do a brief roll call of people that are in chat. Good evening, everybody. Let's see who we have out there. We have Miss Giggles right off the top. Kev W from the UK is with us tonight. GMAT. JG Fogger. I don't know. Might be a new person. Hello. The Link.
Link's not new.
No, Link is not.
That wave wasn't for you, Link.
No, it was for Jogger. Stars and Cloud Collective is here. Pippa, hello.
What's up, Pippa?
Clint Lupe. West Cochran is here.
Nice.
Ren Vapes. VDog 55 from Canada. Taxilla is here. Castella West, hello. Kevin Hannafin is here.
What's up, Kev?
Yep. And Mr. B. I don't know. That's a few of them that are out there. Anyway, welcome everybody. Jason Zastro, I missed him. Fuck This Username is here. Matt Williams. And Socrates was early, so we can't leave him out.
It's late. It's late for Socrates.
Yeah. He was here a half hour early egging me on.
Get live, Gizzard Stew. Just do it. No one's in there. Yeah. Just do it.
It's like, what are you waiting for? Kenny B. I missed Kenny B, and that would be a travesty. So
Scott.
Hello, Kenny B. If I missed anybody, sorry. So, pretty excited. I've been excited all week because Jen agreed to come on. And in light of the fact of a few things that have happened in the advocacy world over the past week, I figured this would have been like the best time to have her on, because there's quite a bit that she can address tonight. I guess, are you ready? Oh, she's muted. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear her?
I can't hear her.
Uh-oh. Now try. Everything was working before the show, I know that.
It was working fantastically till you hit go, Gizzard Stew.
This is typical for me. Right, now she's froze. Oh, there's two.
There she is.
There's two of her now.
Double Jen.
She's on the tilt-a-whirl. She's
Okay.
Yay!
Hey, there we go.
Okay.
All right, one of the other Jen will drop off in a minute. That's all.
Yeah.
That always happens. So, my question was, are you ready? And I guess not quite.
I said I'll do my best. Yeah. Now I'm ready.
All right. Well, I guess the first thing that I would like to ask you tonight is to just tell us a little bit about, before we get into all the advocacy stuff and what happened this last week, if you could share a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and maybe a real brief snippet of your cigarette story. I take it that you used to be a smoker, right?
Absolutely. I smoked for 25 years,
Okay.
somewhere between a pack and two a day.
Okay. What age did you start?
I started smoking daily. I was 15, probably.
Okay. About the same time as me, same age.
Yeah, and I started smoking, like sneaking my parents' cigarettes when I was probably about 10 or 11, but you know, that was like one here or there. But I was a smoker at 15, so.
Okay. And
yeah.
Fast forwarding, when did you adopt vaping or make the transition to that?
So, let's see, I would say probably in about 2013, I started trying with the Cigalikes, and that wasn't really getting me very far. It wasn't really doing much for me. And so I was doing both. I was smoking and vaping, and then I kind of gave up on it for a while, and then I bought one of those Ego C-twist pens and kind of got into that for a while and reduced my smoking. And then I finally bought the Ego one, where it had like the 0.5 ohm coil, and that was it. That's what. So that was in June of 2015 that I smoked my last cigarette.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
My story was kind of similar to that, where you know, I tried it. I originally tried vaping in 2013, and then eventually went back to smoking, and then attempted again in 2014 and kind of dual used off and on, and really officially quit in like September of 2014, where you know, I completely went off. And
Nice.
I think it was due to the fact that the devices got a little bit better in 2014.
Devices got a lot better.
Yeah, devices got. I was going to say devices got a lot better right around then.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on from that, obviously, most people know that you're pretty heavily involved with the advocacy end of our vape community, and so maybe you could just share a little bit about how, you know, how that started for you, or what drove you to kind of move in that direction.
Yeah. So I would say it probably started, I don't know, maybe around October, November of 2015. I had been vaping, and I was like, wow, you know, this is a freaking miracle. I haven't had a cigarette in, you know, 4 or 5 months or whatever it had been. And I started joining, you know, I joined one Facebook group, who then tells you to go join another Facebook group, and on and on and on. And then I started seeing, like, holy shit, they, you know, people actually want to take this away from us. And I couldn't believe that. And so I don't know, I just started, at first it started as like entering contests, like advocacy contests, you know, submit that your proof that you filled out the CUSTARD call to action, and you'd be entered. And I don't think I ever won a damn thing, but I don't know. And then I started you know, people, I saw and heard people talking about in particular how bad California is with all of this. And of course, all the taxes that they proposed. And that was right around the time that Mark Leno proposed the flavor ban, the statewide flavor ban that Stefan and all of them ended up beating. So it was right around that time. And then you know, people were writing letters, you know, you'd see everywhere, write a letter to your senator, write a letter to your congressman, write a letter, you know, and I don't know, it just occurred to me one day, like, well, shit, I live in the capital of California. I could hand deliver letters. So that's kind of when I started posting in groups, hey, if you live in California and you want to write a letter and you want it hand delivered, I'll do it. And then it just took off from there. I mean, I don't know how many I ended up doing, over 500.
Wow.
Yeah, somehow I think Grim Green had seen it on the Not Blowing Smoke page. And I was watching his blog one day and he was just like, hey, I have to shout this person out, and you know, I had posted my email address and gave my email address. And then I just got flooded with a ton of emails.
Wow.
And so that's where it started. And then I started going to things here in Sacramento, and I started meeting people that were into advocacy. Carrie Hess, who used to be the SFATA head of Northern California, her shop is a couple hours away from me. I went to like one of her parties up there, and I ended up meeting Stefan and Cynthia Cabrera and people like that. And that's just sort of how it started and took off. And so, and now I'm a CASA board member.
Cool.
Much deserved.
So
it's awesome.
I have a question for you, as along the lines of your hand delivery and stuff. As you've done that, that's quite a bit of like tonnage, isn't it? Like you go, you use like a 3-wheeler or
well, it wasn't all 500 at once. It was like initially it was probably, I think, 80 and then a couple more hundred and then on from there. So it wasn't all at once, boom, but it was like maybe 3 or 4 different times where I dropped off a pretty good stack of them.
Some weight.
So,
you're
yeah,
dropping
some
off
weight.
some weight.
Absolutely.
So as you've gone around to these representatives, have you ever gotten to speak to any of them directly, or is it usually you're talking to the subordinates and things like that?
I'm always talking to the subordinates. I never get to talk to them face to face. It's always, you know, the senators have offices all over California. They're never here in Sacramento, or they're in DC, or whatever the case may be. Or they I don't know, maybe their people just tell me they're not there. Who knows? But no, but I've gotten some responses back, most of them not very favorable. And you know, I'll get a letter, and that's about it. I've gotten letters and emails back, but never have I gotten to well, that's not true. I did get to sit down with the congressman, not in my area, the next area over. I sat down with him, and he's not supportive of vaping at all. He's a pediatrician, so he goes with all the, you know, well, the lung association says blah blah blah, you know. So that's the only person I've ever met with face to face.
Okay.
So
yeah, I was just curious about that, if you had ever been able to you know, like get a meeting directly with any of them. Do you ever attempt to set meetings with the actual constituents?
Yeah, so I had a meeting, so with my congresswoman, I had a meeting with, I don't know who the hell she was, one of her assistants. I think she was like her public health policy advisor. I had a meeting with her, and because my congresswoman's in Washington, you know, they're busy doing nothing, getting nothing accomplished in Washington. And so we sat for about an hour, and she, you know, she was like, yes, I totally agree with you, harm reduction. And then at the end, but the children. So that's, you know, that's where that went. Right now, what I've been doing is there is a new guy, what is his name? David something, that is coming out. He's running against Feinstein next year, who is one of the worst for vaping and many other things. And so there's this guy, and I've been messaging him like, hey, can you tell me what your stance is on vaping? Because he's supposedly everything anti-Feinstein, and I'm like, and this will really like drive her nuts if you're pro vaping. And he's answered like, you know, let me look into it, let me think about it. So I'm like, dude, I'll blast your name all over California if you say you support vaping. So we'll see.
Cool.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Yes.
Giz, I need to let me pop in for just a second.
Sure.
I got to go pick up my wife real quick. I wasn't aware of this. Can I just stay open and just cut off my camera and go pick her up and be right back?
Sure.
Or do you want me to drop?
Sure. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. I'll be back as quick as I can, probably 15 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you
I'll be back.
We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, the next thing I wanted to know was if you could tell us about what led up to what happened in San Francisco, you know, for people that might not have heard about the preamble to that stuff, and, you know, touch on that briefly, and then if you could tell us how that went last week, and who was there, and how much fun was it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there were, I believe, 6 cities in total in the Bay Area that introduced flavor bans, pretty much one right after another. I mean, within a couple weeks of each other, boom, boom, boom. It was Oakland, San Leandro, I think all of Contra Costa County, where else? I can't remember where else. A bunch of different cities who actually had their meetings before San Francisco, but they keep putting it off because they've had such big public input from the shop owners. So San Francisco, the supervisor, Malia Cohen, introduced a flavor ban under the guise of it being, you know, that menthol and fruity flavors attract minority groups, it attracts African Americans, it attracts LGBT people, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, they really paraded out everyone, not just the kids. Of course, they had the kids, but they really went to work on that. And so I went to the first public hearing and spoke, where it was very clear that they were not interested in anything we had to say. They packed the gallery with all their people who would like clap, and they would do thumbs downs after, you know, while we were talking, and Malia Cohen would make snide remarks as we like turned to walk away. And so it was like, you know, obviously they have their minds made up, and that was where they decided that yes, they were gonna forward it to the full board of supervisors. And then in a closed meeting, they voted that unanimously that they would pass the flavor ban. And so that was going to give, I think initially it would have taken effect in January, but then they said, oh, we'll give you an extension to April, because they had so many of the, I believe it was the Arab American Grocers Association that showed up, and they were like, what the hell are we supposed to do? Like, we're going to have to shut our store if we can't sell anything but tobacco. And they were like, well, too bad. We'll give you like a few extra months to be able to, you know, come together with a plan that you can sell something else. And so that was terrible. And so then Stefan from Not Blowing Smoke, as well as, you know, Kasa ended up joining in as a non-financial contributor, and a couple other groups that signed on. And he somehow managed to get some funding. Well, not somehow. He managed to get some funding to file a referendum, which required that 10% of the people who voted in the last mayoral election had to sign the petition. So they got people to go out in front of grocery stores and sign the petitions. They had to be registered voters in San Francisco. they needed a little over 19,000 votes, and they ended up getting 34,000 of confirmed voters. So I think they actually got close to 100,000, but once they weeded out like who wasn't registered to vote or who didn't live in San Francisco, you know, all that.
I didn't know you guys, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't know that you guys exceeded that number by that much.
Yeah, 34,000.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and they had 30 days to do it, and I think they got those numbers in about 2.5 weeks. So,
wow.
Yeah, and so that's what the press conference was amazing, because of course we were on the steps of City Hall where the Board of Supervisors work and meet, and it was a big press conference, and there was some press there, and we stood on the steps with signs. And I think that Stefan didn't think that it was going to be a very big turnout from vapors, but I'd say there was probably 40 or 50 people there, that we were standing there holding signs, and a bunch of people got up and spoke. They wheeled the signatures in on hand trucks into City Hall as we were doing it. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a bit of gloating on our part, like, because Malia Cohen had kept saying, you guys aren't going to have the support. This is never going to work. Like, we have the overwhelming support, and we did it in way under the amount of time with way over the amount of signatures. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge, it was fun.
Yeah, I bet that. You guys were so elated. I watched the brief video that you put on Facebook, I think, last week, and I was like, yeah. I was watching it live. You went live with it, but
yep.
Just to back up just a second, and so that I can understand this a little better. So the governing body that did this is actually part of the state government, or is it a city government? Is it like...
It's San Francisco city government. It's their Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like a city council members, or...
I think...
They're appointed, no, they're appointed, not elected?
No, they're elected. Okay. They're elected. I think there's 9 or 10 different districts in San Francisco, and they're each elected.
And this is the point I was going to bring up, is that I have a serious problem with elected officials having a closed-door meeting to make decisions like this. I mean, you guys are publicly elected people. Why in the hell are you able to, you know, maybe you can touch on that, or how you feel about it, or explain that to me.
That was my same question. You know, I don't exactly know the answer. I know that they have to give, their only requirement really is that they have to give a 30-day notice that this is going to happen and that it's going to be voted on. And they do have to take public comment. But as far as I know, the actual vote happened in open city council meeting. However, because they had to go formally vote in front of people. However, they released the press statement after their closed door meeting that yes, we are all in fact voting unanimously to pass. So yeah, I don't know how the specifics of that work and why.
Yeah, it just struck me as like the transparency on that thing. I don't like that. It reminds me of what happened in I believe it was India last year, where they had the World Health Organization, and then they kicked everybody out, and they were having basically all their discussions behind closed doors, and they kicked out all of the reporters, and you know, it just any government body like that, especially in America, I mean, I don't know, anywhere in the world, that just seems not transparent and not right to me.
Well, I'm sure, you know, we all know how these things, I don't know exactly how they go, but I have a pretty good idea of how it goes, which is, you know, they trade votes. Like, yeah, I'll vote to fund the park in your neighborhood if you vote for this thing that I'm pushing so hard for, because now I've made such a huge public spectacle of it, I can't lose, you know. we all know how that goes, and that's why it has to go on behind closed doors. So
Right.
Yeah. And there's the same thing happens at the national level. Like they go to these paid these conferences in these beautiful places in the US, outside of the US, that are, you know, corporately funded. But it's just a conference, and they're a speaker, and then they lock the doors and they don't allow the press in. Like it's fairly standard practice that's how a lot of legislation gets done in Washington D.C.
Well, and I suppose
at a city level, you know, maybe they go out for coffee or something like that instead. But yeah, you know, it's how it all works, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of these decisions are made like in hallways and, you know, as they're walking through the rotunda, you know, whatever.
Yep.
But it's a balmy 70 degrees outside. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go outside and decide the fate of the vaping community under a tree.
Yeah.
They did make these decisions with paid lobbyists whispering in their ears.
Sure.
You know, so I guess it's just the way it is. But to me, it's something that beyond just you know, our how it affects our vaping rights and so on and so forth. Any of this is, you know, it just bothers me, is what I was driving at. So
so now their choice is they either drop it, because it's going to cost them a lot of money to put it on the ballot. So they either have to drop it or put it on the ballot for the next general election, which would be in 2018, in which case it would go to the voters. But I know the weekend before, well, yeah, it would have been Saturday and Sunday, Stefan and then Greg Conley came into town, and they were pounding the pavement and going into bars and stuff and talking to people and explaining what it really was. Because, you know, when they see the press headlines, oh yeah, you know, all these people are being affected by it, and they're getting, you know, the menthols are getting African Americans addicted, and the LGBT people addicted, and then you go into these places and you talk to them and you say, you know, yes, these populations are disproportionately affected by smoking and by smoking deaths and illnesses, and that is exactly why you need to vote for harm reduction and forget all the bullshit they're telling you, because it's not going to work. And people were really receptive to it. We had people, when we were out at the press conference, people were coming by, like just unplanned people, stopping and taking pictures and video and clapping. And so
that's awesome.
Some people get it, I take it.
Yeah. I mean, there's that element of truth there. I mean, those particular populations have been targeted by big tobacco. You know,
sure.
Yeah. And, you know, it's fairly well documented. It's all over TV these days that, yeah, I mean, they spend a lot of money in particular neighborhoods because that particular neighborhood has a target demographic that sees smoking as this. But, you know, when the city of San Francisco, when they proposed this, I wasn't surprised at all. Like I'm surprised it took San Francisco this long to get around to trying to take out menthol cigarettes. I mean, yeah, I didn't think that they were targeting vaping specifically, but it's sounding more and more like vaping was right next to menthol cigarettes.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, if you guys, do you guys ever watch Regulator Watch with Brent Stafford? Yes. Did you see, it was a couple weeks ago, there's this guy named Damon Jacobs. I've met him a couple times, and he is a psychotherapist in New York, and he specializes in working with people with HIV and with harm reduction and whatnot. And he actually flew from New York to speak in San Francisco and was talking about, you know, San Francisco has this amazing legacy and has always been at the forefront of harm reduction. They were the ones who pressed at the federal level to legalize needle exchanges, to legalize, you know, passing out free condoms, all these things that everyone just railed against back in the 80s and 90s. Like, no, we have to protect the children. We have to protect the children. Yet now we have the lowest rates of HIV infections, new infections ever, because of harm reduction, and the telling people not to do what they're gonna do doesn't work. And so he came and so he came and spoke to it. You know, like no one ever said, you know, using drugs, IV drugs is like a good thing. But if you already are and you can't stop and you want to do it safely, like San Francisco was always at the forefront of that, you know. And so why the huge disconnect with vaping and people wanting to quit smoking? That's where the argument doesn't hold water, because it's not like it's this conservative place that they're just like, no, you know, screw everyone who's addicted to drugs or who, you know, has unprotected sex. They've never been like that. So why with smoking? So, but that fell on deaf ears, obviously. But he did an amazing episode of Regulator Watch. It was like 2-3 weeks back. So if you find it and watch it,
I'll have to go check that. Yeah, I love Regulator Watch.
yeah, he's brilliant. This guy Damon is brilliant. He says what we all think, but in a very like educated and succinct way. So it just sounds amazing.
Uncle, you're nude. You're nude, Uncle. Hide your shame.
How dare I?
Oh man, in front of Berger Coleman.
I know.
I can't believe the nerve of Yeti's uncle coming in here like that.
Made him turn his camera back off.
I know, right? He came in here swinging for the fences. It's like, come on, uncle.
Can't believe that.
There it is.
There we go. Oh man.
Yeah, man.
Hope nobody was looking.
You just don't look right without that headlight on.
That forehead goes forever, doesn't it?
It does tend to break it up a bit.
Oh, who's that?
Hold on 1 second, Giz. Keep going, Giz.
Oh, okay. So I wanted you to touch on who was there, because it seemed to me like it was kind of an all-star cast that was there with you.
Yeah, there were a bunch of people who I'd never met. There's a bunch of the people who are heading and funding this coalition, which I'm sorry, my dog, which I'm sure is no secret by now that some of the funding is coming from Big Tobacco. And so some of them were there, the people who organized the petition gathering and whatnot. Greg Conley was there. Stefan was there, a bunch of the shop owners from around the Bay Area, not just San Francisco, but Oakland and San Leandro, some of the other people that are having these flavor bans introduced. Carrie Hess and Jeff, her husband, were there. They drove all the way from Reading. Who else? The guy from PAX, so Jewel, the CEO of PAX, was there. Because they're headquartered in San Francisco, and you know, some consumers. So yeah, a lot of people showed up.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it did seem like you're pretty happy, right?
Yeah. When Stefan told me about it, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm taking the day off. I'm coming down there. So, yeah.
It was surprising to me that you guys were able to get that referendum through and in such a short amount of time. And I'm even more surprised by the news that you gave us. I had not heard that you had exceeded the amount of signatures by that amount. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Stefan and his people were pretty confident the whole time that was going to be the case. I think they had done some, you know, looking around and talking to people beforehand. And it seemed like people were really receptive to at least letting it go to the ballot. If, you know, worst case scenario, like at least people are like, yeah, we should be able to vote on that, not them. You know, 9 people should not be able to vote the fate of the whole city, 1 million people. Correct. You know.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems like the argument that would appeal in San Francisco.
Yeah. Right.
Is these guys just made a decision without talking to you at all? Are you sure you want that?
Right.
It sets a precedent.
That would be a good way to approach it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, it was a lot of fun knowing that maybe they were like watching out the window. I'm not sure, but
so
I'm sure they saw it on the news.
Have you gotten any sense since this has been allowed to sink in for a week, as to whether you think that they will put this on a state ballot, or?
It's hard to say. They have the backing of, of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, which is our worst nightmare, of course. And Stanton Glantz, he's not happy about this at all. And Stefan mentioned him in his speech, which was brilliant. It's hard to say. It's hard to say now with the FDA stuff coming out. I think that maybe has the chance to change the trajectory of what these people want to fight for and what they don't. We will see. We don't really know if they're going to want to gather all the money to fight it. So.
Right. Well, and I think it's precarious if they do put it on the state ballot, just because of what happened with Prop 56 last year. So what are your feelings on that?
My feelings on that are, so, there may be people that disagree with me, but I think that we're finally doing what we should have maybe been doing all along, which is working with big tobacco. Love it or hate it, they have all this money, and they've spent it fucking people over for so long that now they have the chance to do something right with it, because they have just as much to lose as we do. They don't want menthol cigarettes banned. They don't want the flavored cigars banned. You know what I mean? And so that we happen to be on the same side of the issue, I think is amazing, because they're not trying to take us down. Nobody's trying to take them down. Like, yes, we all made the decision not to smoke because it's healthier, but I don't give a shit what an adult does. If you want to smoke, smoke, And so I think now that we finally have the financial backing of them, that was the whole problem in Prop 56. We had nothing. We couldn't make commercials. We couldn't do anything, because no vape group, no advocacy group combined has enough money to fight that at the public level. And all they have to do is come on with the kids, and that there it goes.
Do you think that big tobacco can hold hands with us on harm reduction, or do you think that ultimately they're just going to be conniving to take control of our industry?
Well,
I
think those statements can go hand in hand, Gizzard.
No, that's why I want Jen's opinion on
it. This might be a little naive. I would like to think, they make what is it, the Views and the Blues and all that crap that none of us buy. But they're definitely the first point of sale for a lot of people who walk into a 7-Eleven or walk into a gas station.
For sure.
Those kinds of things, first point of sale. And if they understand that this is where the market is moving to, I mean, the more harm reduction, the better. If they want their slice of the pie, that's fine too. But, as long as they're not trying to take it away from us. And I think that, like I said, I think that they probably understand that they have just as much to lose as we do. Like the tobacco market's just going to keep going down, the lowest smoking rates ever now. And so, but that's because people are switching to vapor products. And so, in the end, they can't be the face of it. Reynolds or Altria can't go out to like the board of supervisors and say, no, we think you should keep menthol cigarettes on the market because they're good for you. They can't do that. They need us to be the face of it, but we need their money. So,
I guess that's my opinion, is that I think it's a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah.
But I trust them about as far as I can throw them still. Still not very.
Absolutely.
I'm still not very big on big tobacco. So
Well,
none of us are, but I think we also all realize right now that really our biggest threat right now is the money that comes from the big pharma, and all the politicians are funded by big pharma
and big charity.
Right. And and big charity gets their money from big pharma.
Right.
The campaign for tobacco-free kids is funded by Johnson & Johnson, who make Nicorette and Nicoderm. So, you know.
And Nicoderm
vicious circle going and going and going.
Nicoderm is approved by the American Cancer Society.
Yeah, I was actually at Rite Aid the other night, and I walked up, sitting right next to where you can check out. Sure enough, there's the Nicoderm CQ gum.
Absolutely.
Actually, I want to redact that. I meant to say the American Lung Association. It says so right on Nicoderm packaging. Approved by the American Lung Association. So they're obviously in bed with them. So let's transition a little bit and suck the FDA into this conversation. I'm sure that you read the news release that they put out. You probably have heard the speech that was made by Gottlieb last week. But let's focus on the news release, because there were some things in there that were problematic in my eyes, and there was a lot of for the kids language in there. There was some language in there that was giving a nod to the fact that they might be taking a closer look at flavorings and things. And I mean, part of that I have to blame San Francisco. And just so you know what I'm driving at. So if you want to share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you know, that's all up in the air right now as to how that's going to go. However, I mean, obviously, the first part of the huge news was that the predicate date got pushed out so far. I mean, from going from a year away now to 5 years away is huge. Obviously, I was listening to it live on the way to work, and I had to pull over and get into the CUSTARD chat, and I was like, am I really hearing what I think I'm hearing? Like, and they were like, we don't know either. We're looking for the transcripts. And so that's obviously huge. But I think even more huge is that he said the words harm reduction. Mitch Zeller would never have uttered the words harm reduction ever. Yeah, like he'd rather die than say harm reduction in vaping.
Right.
So I think that's even more or as huge as the predicate date being pushed out, and that he is looking at it now as a harm reduction tool. We don't know what's going to happen with the flavors. Let's hope all the studies get done that need to get done, and that the flavors aren't going to hurt anyone and all that. We don't know, but we now have 5 years to convince the right people instead of one. And he's looking at it as harm reduction and saying that this is the direction that the FDA needs to move, is harm reduction, not outright bans. So that's huge. That's huge. None of us knew that this was happening. No one knew that this was about to happen. And we all got on there live on the link, and we were like, what? Is he really saying this?
I mean, since he took office, though, I've been hopeful that something like this would come down, because he's, you know, he did have a vested interest in vaping, obviously, because he was a part owner in a company before he sold it off. And he's been, you know, his track record shows that he's very, very science oriented, and that the science supports harm reduction. Like I've been, and he's used the words harm reduction before. I believe he even said it to Patty Murray straight to her face, that, you know, I'd like to explore harm reduction options, which surprised me. it didn't surprise me. Yeah, that's a lady you don't say something like that to.
Science. Yeah. So, I mean, he's a doctor. He should support science.
Exactly. But I mean, unfortunately, with the FDA, that hasn't been the track record in quite some time, unfortunately. So, but like I said, I've been hopeful that something like this would come down, that that we would start seeing a more reasonable approach to vaping rather than it just being demonized like it has been in the press. And have you been hopeful over the last little bit, knowing that guy's sitting out there somewhere and drawing on paper and talking to people? And
yeah, I think it's huge. And I think also what looks promising is the fact that he's talking about streamlining the PMTA process, hopefully making it a lot more reasonable, a lot more affordable we've all heard 99% of businesses are going to go out of business at the end of this if they don't do something to change that. And it sounded like he kind of was aware of that and the sort of holes and cracks in what they had previously released, which no one knew what the hell they wanted. People were like, what do you want from us? Well, we don't know yet. There isn't a department that deals with that yet. But if you don't do it, whatever it is that we don't know, by August 8th, 2018, then that's it, So I think he realizes the problem with that. And so let's hope for the best. I mean, it's a hell of a lot better position than we were in, a week ago or 8 days ago. So
yes, for sure. So I don't know, I just want to try and reiterate the fact that, we had a win, definitely. We have more time now. But there was a lot of people, I think, that were like, oh, we won, so and I just want to get your feelings on that, but also my feelings on it are, that was like we won time, and that's good. I mean, that's the best thing that we probably could have won, but we can't be lulled into a false sense of security.
Yeah. Because our opponents also won time.
Exactly.
Yes. So.
Well, I'm kind of curious if, with this new, little bit of breathing room that we have, if any studies are going to get done, any proper studies, scientific studies will get done. And once it's out there, and with the, the new head in there, talking positively about vaping, if maybe this won't help kind of sway the general opinion of vaping and vaping products. I'm hopeful, I guess, but I'm curious if you think that might possibly be the outcome. I know it's just an opinion question, but going with the way we were before, we were pretty much doomed anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. If he is as rational as he seems, and he gets true studies done that aren't done by the Lung Association or the Heart Association or Johnson & Johnson, or people that have a vested interest in making sure that people, either smoke or use Nicorette.
Right. That was what I was going to point out, was that a lot of times who does the studies usually? It's usually the pharmaceutical companies that do the studies for them.
Right.
So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. And so I think that if he is as rational as he seems to be thus far, and realizes that he needs true independent studies to be done. I mean, I'm sure he's seen the Royal College of Physicians study, and he's a doctor too. And that's a world-renowned group of doctors. So he's got to be paying attention to that, and to the fact that Public Health UK is really pushing vaping as a solution to quit smoking, and that they're having huge success rates. So let's hope. Let's hope they do actual studies.
That's my hope, because that's what I hate more than anything, is to see bad science out there. And what's worse than the bad or the junk science, what's worse than that is the masses that absorb that, and they're like, well, this is what the science says, and they just take it as gospel. And it's not. It's absolutely wrong and incorrect.
Well,
how many times I'll ask Jen this, since she's a public figure and a voice out there. How many times do you get formaldehyde or antifreeze thrown in your face each week?
Yeah.
Oh, all the time. I would say a little less now, less. But yeah, I mean, you have to realize that we are a very small percentage of the population. I mean, it seems like we're a lot of people, and we are, but you know, it's because we all associate with each other. And so I'm like, everyone in the world vapes because that's all I know of vapors, but that's not true. Most people really don't give a shit either way. Yep. You have to make them give a shit either way.
Bingo!
And mostly what they see on, you know, people get their stuff from the media. And if they're not seeing stuff from us, how could they see stuff from us? They're seeing, you know, this video of a mod exploding in some dude's pants on the bus or whatever. And so that's where they're getting it. And, you know, like I said, generally they just don't care. So, yeah. So we have to, I mean, that's a huge task, is making the people who don't vape in this country, which way outnumber us, making them care. So
yeah, that's the toughie. That's why I think like Prop 56, it's such an uphill battle, you know, because they only need whatever half of the vote or a certain percentage, and it's just so lopsided. That's how that they've been financing everything for years off the backs of smokers, you know, because they're like, oh, well, let's make the smokers pay for it. And 80% of the population is going, yeah, that sounds good to me. I don't smoke. I don't give a shit. Make them pay for the new stadium or the, you know, the school buses or the roads or, you know.
Yeah, you're out there throwing the butts on the road. Why wouldn't you pay for them?
That's right. You know?
California is absolutely the worst when it comes to money. I mean, I think you guys know the master settlements. Who the hell knows where that money went or where it continues to go? It's certainly not on fixing our roads, because they just raised our gas taxes. So this is, yes, again. So this is funny. My union at work, I work for the state. Actually, now I just found out today from the union president, we got an email that we're suing like the legislature or something, because they claimed back 8 years ago that they couldn't afford to give us raises. They didn't have enough money in the bank, et cetera, et cetera. And we signed off on the contract that if they did have X amount of money, that we would get a raise, you know, at which point they had the money. And no, we don't have the money. We don't have the money. We'll come to find out all these years later, they're doing audits and they were putting the money in other places and making it look like they didn't have the money. So California is just the worst. So yeah, my union's suing the state now, which is pretty amazing too. So yeah.
All right, you owe me for my raise, and you owe me back pay. Thank you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's always nice when you get a little bit of back pay.
So that's California for you.
So some of your hard work has come to a culmination, you know, with what happened last week. That's got to be exciting, and you know, I'm sure you're elated over it. But I wanted for you to touch on, you know, what you're going to be doing. If you've like taken this all in, and what your plans are going forward.
Well, going forward, like I said, it's sort of up in the air right now how much the FDA statement changes things about whether or not the politicians. It could go one of two ways. It's either going to really piss them off and they're really going to fight for like flavor bans, which is sort of the direction that Stefan thinks it's going to go. Like, okay, the FDA now is dropping the ball and now we've got to do it locally. In which case it's going to be, you know, there's potential that this flavor ban thing could go on the statewide ballot in the next election. There's a potential for that. We hope not. But there's a potential for that, which is, like I said, why we need a lot of money to fight that. Because you saw what happened in Prop 56, it went by a landslide. So we're hoping that cooler heads prevail and that they start to say, oh, there's some science behind this. But whether or not that's the reality, probably not. So it'll be a huge fight if that's what happens, and we'll know more soon when they have to start putting things on the ballot. So yeah, that we're sort of kind of waiting to see what they're gonna do with this. So
you get a little bit of a vacation.
I don't know about that.
Jen doesn't stop fighting gizzards too. She's out swinging in the streets if nobody's swinging at her.
A breather.
She fights in their sleep.
That's right.
I'm trying. Yeah, well, and Stefan, I mean, God, that guy's just everywhere. I don't know how he does what he does. He gets like 2 hours of sleep a night, and he goes to all the city flavor. I mean, because that's his job. He's the president of Not Blowing Smoke, and so, I unfortunately cannot be away from my actual job that much to be able to go to everything. But I try if it's close to me. But he's amazing, and he has his ear to the ground. He knows people who know people, and and so I really rely on him for a lot of my information about what the general tone is in places. So, and he usually seems to be pretty spot on. So,
do you have any advice for our viewers and the people that might watch this on replay? As what would your advice be, or your inspiration be, pep talk, if you will, maybe, for people that might be watching this, and I'll let you go with that.
Want to get involved?
Yeah.
People looking to get involved, gizzards too?
Correct.
Well, I have always said that I think the way that we are going to win this, if it comes down to a battle, and if it is a battle that people get to decide on, the way that we are going to win this is to convince the people that this is a better thing. Like I said, the vast majority of people in this country do not smoke or vape and don't give a shit. And everyone in my work, all my family, all my friends have gotten the discussion and the lecture from me ad nauseum. I'm sure they're super tired of hearing it by now. But that's what you have to do. You have to tell anyone who will listen. My mom used to be like, she's like, I'm not so sure about vaping. I don't think they know enough about it. But now she's like all over my page. She'll thumbs up and right on everything I post, because she's read it and I've talked to her about it. And that's what we have to do with people. I mean, people just don't. If there's something you don't care about, you're not gonna, you're just like, oh, whatever. Yeah, it looks bad for the kids, so let's vote for whatever they're. So that's what we have to do is if this comes down to a fight where public opinion matters, which public opinion does matter when people are getting calls, their senators and whatnot, if they're getting calls and the majority of them think that we're right, then, so I think that's where this is going to be fought and won. I honestly don't think there are very many politicians who don't have their minds made up one way or another. So, and then obviously another thing is looking at who supports it, who supports vaping, who supports, our rights to do whatever the hell we want. So.
Good pep talk. Are you still taking vape story testimonials?
I haven't actively done it, but I absolutely can and will. Sure.
Do you want to put that out there for where people can get a hold of you or send that kind of information?
Yeah, my email address is jbcoleman, COLEMAN 13@gmail.com. And if you anything you want to say about how you quit or why you quit, has it improved your health, has it you quit for your kids, whatever the case may be, that's all great stuff, because testimonials matter. So
all right, I want to throw it up to our other two panelists. Do you guys have anything you want to add,
I would like to say that I love you, Jen Berger Coleman.
I love you, Fresh.
Oh.
I'm just curious. I had meant to ask this earlier before I had to leave, and this is going to be stupid, but I'm just curious. When you used to take all the box of letters, down to City Hall or wherever it is that you have to go to give these these testimonials to the people, do you get the look like, oh, here she is again? I know it's stupid, but I'm just curious because I know you've been down there a bunch.
Yeah, the guards at the Capitol, because you have to go through security and show them ID and all that stuff. The guards were like, "Oh, Jesus Christ," because I'd have to put it through the conveyor belt. And they got to know who I was when I was coming, both at the Capitol and at the Federal Building, which is where the Congress people are here.
Right.
So.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You got like a frequent security pass.
I wish.
Yeah, lawyers don't even get those.
Like you're white gloved.
Yeah. I wanted one. I was like, this is such a pain, having to take all my metal off and all that.
It is a pain in the butt.
All right.
Yep.
Well, we're about out of time, so I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you coming today. And
I appreciate you asking me. I love all you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad you decided to come, and
Honored.
for sharing your story with us and your excitement over the win that you guys had in California last week, and your opinions on the FDA and all that good stuff. You guys want to say anything else before we go?
I did see out there that Dimlin wanted me to pass on that she had a great time hanging out with you on the steps of the Capitol, Jen.
Nice.
All right. Well, Jen, I'm going to offer it up to you. Would you like to take us out then?
Oh, how do you go out?
Oh, she doesn't know.
Oh.
I don't.
All right, then I'll take us out.
Okay. And now I'll know.
Okay. Remember, everybody, try and be decent to each other. Try and be nice to somebody this week, if possible.
I was going to say, Gizzard Stew, you keep dropping your standards.
Shut up, Fresh. No. So try and be decent to each other and try and be nice to somebody this week, if possible. And get off your butts and vape. Bye.
Bye.
See you in a bit.
Gizzard Stew, you made some money on your channel.
What?